Hey, welcome back to the Vintage Bubblegum Pod. I'm your host, Cal, and on this podcast, we talk about boy bands. We talk about girl groups. We talk about pop music from the late 90s and the early 2000s. It's a genre I've been passionate about for more than half my life, and I can't wait to share in that passion with all of you. But today, we're going to do something a little different. Today, we are talking about the HEARS PremEARS Volume 1, which covers some of the original Disney Channel original movies. As far as music goes, it's a very eclectic collection and a very interesting journey. So come along with me on this weird journey. I had a bit of a tough time writing this one at first because I kept getting sidetracked by watching old Disney Channel bumpers and commercials to see if this soundtrack was ever mentioned on the channel, or like how I heard of it, or how I came to own it. It's weird, like how some memories are so stark. Like I remember buying 98 Degrees Invisible Man on cassette at the wall at the Berkshire Mall when I was like 11 years old, and I like remember this so specifically, but I cannot recall where I got this. Probably a record store, but I have no idea. It's kind of difficult as well with some of these older kind of obscure collections like this to find a lot of information about them, as it is 25 years old now. There just really isn't a whole lot to discover out there. It is a compilation, so I did find information on some of the artists, so we'll get into all of that. And in watching like all of those Disney Channel bumpers and commercials, trying to look into some of this stuff, I totally forgot how much the Disney Channel repeated the content. Like Disney Channel didn't have commercials in like the traditional sense. It was kind of like a self-contained unit, or all of the commercials involved Disney IPs and stuff, or like other Disney Channel shows or Disney movies and stuff like that. But there's some YouTube channels out there that have like hour-long clips of these bumpers, and it's literally like the same three things over and over again for like 3 or 4 hour blocks of TV. It's like no wonder some of this stuff was so ingrained in us. They did a great job at making sure like you saw something and then you saw it again and again and again, so you would never forget it. So this soundtrack was produced by a man named Mark D. Dia, who has produced for a lot of albums and live concerts and stuff for the Black Crowes. That's probably what he's done the most of. But he's also did Yellow Card's debut album, and he was executive producer on the Varsity Blues soundtrack. The soundtrack was released by Hollywood Records on November 6, 1999, and it was a way to promote the songs, to cross-promote the songs from the movies that included, a lot of these artists were included on the Hollywood Records labels, and it's also a way to promote the DCOMs that were on their channel, and before we called them DCOMs as well. And this was the intro to the movies. That was it's my favorite one. I didn't care so much for the jingle that came after, but that's just me because I'm old. So as we said, this is called the HEARS PremEARS Volume 1, which is a little misleading because there technically was never a Volume 2 of HEARS PremEARS. There was no info on exactly how this came together or why it was put out there, but I can only imagine that it was a way to use the artists on the Hollywood Records label to promote them as well as promoting the shows and the music you might hear in these movies, and to drive more watches to the channel as well as album sales for the artists listed. So I did try to do some digging on the Wayback Machine, the Hollywood Records website, and in 1999 there's only a few hits that have been captured by the Wayback Machine. Most of the links are still active, but when you click on them, most of Disney's website at that time was Flash driven, So most of that is no longer accessible considering Flash doesn't exist anymore. I did see two of the bands listed on this soundtrack. Simon Says and Rich Creamy Paint were two of the artists that were visible on the Hollywood Records homepage. I even actually, this album came out, as we said, November 6th, 1999, but this was listed on the Hollywood website as early as January 25th, 1999. That could have also been where I saw it and wanted to get it. I can't remember. But I did click on it, but even with the Flash emulator that I downloaded, unfortunately, it just still didn't work. So I'm super bummed about that, and I'm curious, like, what was behind that link, what more info there could have been about this on their website. But when I went back to explore, the capture disappeared. I did get this recording of it, so there's proof that it was there on this date. But when I went back to the Wayback Machine, it was gone. The capture was gone. So I don't know. It was super strange. So the album has at least one song from each original movie from the first 2 years of the channel pushing these Disney Channel original movies, except for Halloween Town, the first Halloween Town. I'm not sure why it's not included. Maybe it had its own EP that they released with it. I'm not sure. I thought maybe it was because Halloween Town doesn't have any pop music or hit music of the time in it, but neither does the 13th Year. So that can't be why they didn't include it. So I'm not sure. Some of the other films don't have popular music attached to them. It's just the scores. So I'm not sure why they didn't include Halloween Town. So the films aren't listed in order on the back here. It seems that they're listed in popularity, interestingly enough. Under Wraps would be first. If that was the case, Horse Sense would still be last. But I think it's on here by order of the movie that you like the most popular one on the channel. So it starts with Brink, and Horse Sense is the last. So the films in order of release were Under Wraps, You Lucky Dog, Brink, Halloween Town, Xenon, Can of Worms, 13th Year, Smart House, Johnny Tsunami, Genius, Don't Look Under the Bed, and Horse Sense. There was 8 months between Under Wraps and You Lucky Dog, but this release schedule seemed pretty sporadic. But in 1999, there was a DCOM released almost every month. Track listing is a variety of songs. Some of them are pop music, like Five, Youngstown, or Bewitched, and others are rock bands that were also on the Hollywood Records label, like Simon Says, Rich Creamy Paint, Fastball, and Jesse Camp, who I think is a crazy inclusion. Jesse Camp was the winner of a contest called MTV's I Want to Be a VJ, and he was an interesting guy, to say the least. This is a little clip of him. Each song has a corresponding scene that the music was a part of, or in just some cases, it's just the main score of the movie. So starting with Brink, the song Sooner or Later by Fastball plays over the opening credits sequence showing the Soul Skaters making their way across town to the beach. Fastball was, and still is, a great American rock band. They soared to hitmaker status with their 1998 song The Way from their debut album All the Pain Money Can Buy. They were nominated for 2 Grammys for The Way, and it was a #1 Billboard charting hit in April of 1998. They were very of the now and very hip at the time of Brink's release. But as far as I can tell, the song Sooner or Later that's included here was never officially released as a single for Fastball. Next up is Smart House, and the compilation includes 3 songs for this film: C'est La Vie by Bewitched, Slam Dunk Da Funk by Five, and the song's title track, Houses Jumpin' by Shane Andre. The song C'est La Vie is used to demonstrate the house Pat's ability to play music and display full-screen video to entertain Angie and Ben, the kids who live in the house. C'est La Vie was by the Irish girl group Bewitched, and it was their first single off of their self-titled debut record released in 1998. I'm not going to go too much into C'est La Vie right now because 2 weeks from now I do plan on deep diving on Bewitched and that single. So 5 Slam Dunk the Funk was also used in the same way to demonstrate Pat's ability to cater to the party, with Ben and his friends dancing along to 5 during their Disney Channel in-concert special, which was also with Bewitched. So it's really cool and not at all cringe to see. I wonder how long those kids worked on that dance, getting that down. I mean, they were doing exactly what 5 was doing, so it was kind of cool, but... And I'm in my yearly Sons of Anarchy rewatch. So I always forget that Katie Seagal is Pat in this movie until I start watching it. So it's kind of like Gemma Teller for kids. The final song included for Smart House is the movie's theme, House is Jumpin', which is a song very of its time. And it sounds like a typical, like, family-friendly light rap song of the 90s, but it is guaranteed to get stuck in your head for days on end. Disney Plus has a habit of cutting out some songs from these DCOMs for probably copyright reasons, or like, you know, having to pay for the rights for these songs. So in some cases it's probably cheaper for them to replace them with more generic sounding music. But interestingly, 5 and Bewitched remain on the Disney Plus streaming version of Smart House, and it's probably because they're very specific to what the character is doing. I mean, Angie is singing along to the song C'est La Vie, and then later Ben and his friends are dancing along to it. So if you're not, you kind of have to pay for those songs to be on the streaming platform. It would be hard for them to circumvent the use of those songs. Next up is Johnny Tsunami, the only other movie with 3 tracks listed on this compilation. Simon Says has a song called Life Jacket, which is used to great effect during a snowboarding scene, and I actually kind of like it in like an early 2000s arena rock band kind of way. Life Jacket charted at number 23 on the Billboard Mainstream Rock Tracks chart in 1998. The group renamed their band Key to Arson in 2001 when they left Hollywood Records and disbanded in 2004. In 2023, the band announced a reunion with new music that they released back in May, so that's kind of cool. The next group, Jeffrey's Fan Club, is the next track with their song Crystal 52, a ska track from their second album, Nothing to Prove, which was in 1998. It accompanies the footage of Johnny and his grandpa snowboarding down the mountain. And also, here's a fun fact for you. Actor who plays Aaron in Johnny Tsunami, Noah Bastian, the following year would become better known as Chad Linus, who was one of the 5 members of the totally not real but extremely legit boy band Together. The third song is by the aforementioned Jesse Camp. The song is titled So Down, and listening to the song made me laugh so hard because it's just so crazy. I mean, what were they thinking? But Jesse and the 8th Street Kids were signed to Hollywood Records, and as I said, this compilation is all about the synergy. Also, did you know that there's a sequel to Johnny Tsunami that's called Johnny Capahala Back on the Board? Me either. I still haven't seen it, but it is available on Disney Plus, and it dropped on the Disney Channel in 2007, nearly a full decade after the first Johnny Tsunami. Someone must have been clamoring for it, and they even had Brandon Baker and Kerry Harioki Tagawa back to reprise their roles as Johnny and his grandfather. Genius is the next movie listed on the tracks, and if you're new here or you just haven't seen it yet, I did a review episode on the movie Genius after our episode on the boy band Youngstown, so go watch it because you'll get a lot more detail about the song and the movie from those episodes. So, about as a quick recap, Genius was released on the Disney Channel in August of 1999, and the song Prince You Charmed is used as a theme to the bonding of the 2 main characters, Charlie and Claire. Prince You Charmed was released as a single for Youngstown to accompany this movie from their self-titled debut album. Youngstown was also a part of the Hollywood Records family. We also went into, on the episode that I did about Genius, I went into the difference between Disney Plus and the original airing of Genius, as the Youngstown tune is no longer available on the Disney Plus version. The second track is the main theme throughout the film, titled Charlie Sees Claire, where the song plays when Charlie does in fact first see Claire skating, as well as through several points throughout the movie you can hear the score. The score is by Peter Manning Robinson, who worked as a composer mostly for TV movies starting in the early 80s, but probably most notably in the early 2000s, he was the composer for 128 episodes of the show Without a Trace. For Xenon, I feel like the song Supernova Girl probably needs no introduction, as it's probably the most famous early DCOM that was released. According to the artist Christian Rex, who wrote and sang on Supernova Girl, she said on SoundCloud, Supernova Girl was written after Smart Guy was over and I was traveling home from Burbank. It was written for a Disney Channel movie trilogy called Xenon Girl of the 21st Century. I wrote, produced, and sang it using Roy Yokelson, NYC engineer, for final mix. Christian Rex passed away in 2018, but for her only having 4 composing credits to her name, Smart Guy, and all 3 Xenon movies, it's quite a legacy to leave behind. The song is played by fictional band Protozoa for Xenon when she manages to get them on her space day. The other track is the Xenon main title score, which was composed by Phil Marshall. Phil Marshall's career dates back to 1970, and he composed many early DCOMs, and his final DCOM was 2004's Pixel Perfect. Now for the 13th year. I'm going to go out on a limb here and declare this song the worst song on the whole album. I mean, really. Randy Crenshaw, who sings this song, My 13th Year, is a session singer and a voice actor who has been working since the early 90s. Probably his most famous project is The Nightmare Before Christmas, where he sang for Behemoth and Mr. Hyde, as well as the Beetle in the movie Thumbelina. The song My 13th Year is really bizarre and campy. I guess it's from the main character Cody's point of view, kind of. It's describing how he's changing into a fishman and his fear of his girl not being able to tell him apart from a flounder and being scared of sushi bars. I don't know. The movie itself is one of the DCOMs that do not include any popular music or artists. The next movie, You Lucky Dog, was a DCOM that starred Kirk Cameron. It released in June of 1998, and the score of Off to the Mall by David Michael Frank is listed on the soundtrack. I have to admit to never seeing You Lucky Dog. Something about Kirk Cameron, he bugs the crap out of me. I don't know. And seeing him turn into a dog and eat a couch is like real low on my list of things I care to view on any given day. But oddly, the opening song for You Lucky Dog, Togetherness, is not included here on this soundtrack, which is only odd because Togetherness and not Off to the Mall was nominated for a Primetime Emmy in July of 1999. It is possible that this compilation had already been finalized before the nomination, thus it's not inclusion, but who's to say? Next up is the film Under Wraps from 1997, the very first DCOM ever, which is also a DCOM I don't remember watching. I do recognize Clara Bryant from a later DCOM, True Confessions. One of the older bops on this compilation is the song Get Down Tonight, which is a classic by Casey and the Sunshine Band. It released in 1975, and the song was their first of 5 #1 hits for the band. The song is used as Harold the Mummy is taken out in public by the 3 main kids wearing clothes from the 70s they bought cheap at a thrift store. And here's a little trivia for you. The man who played Harold, Bill Fagerback, is most famously known as Patrick Star from SpongeBob, which would see its premiere not 2 years later in 1999. Don't Look Under the Bed is the next movie, and it's a movie about believing in your invisible friends, which was the Disney Channel's third Halloween-themed film, releasing in October of 1999. Halloween Town was the year before, in October of 1998, and it stars Larry Beale, aka Ty Hodges from the Even Stevens. His character is also named Larry in this movie. He's the invisible friend who keeps the boogeyman away. This is a DCOM I did not see until a few years ago. I watched this in Halloween Town with my daughter. I didn't dislike it, but it sure wasn't a favorite of mine. Boogie Wonderland is the song from this movie on this compilation, which is by Earth, Wind & Fire, another classic track released in 1979. The song plays over the end credits, and I actually enjoy that they used the song given that the movie was about the boogeyman. Boogie Wonderland, boogeyman. Smart, Anne. Can of Worms is another DCOM that I've never seen, but it released in April of 1999, and it was released a few months after Xenon and just before the 13th year. So I would think it would have worked better for them as a Halloween season movie. So it might have just gotten overshadowed by the release of Xenon in the 13th year. The song for this movie is titled Monster Groove, and it was written by Mark Mothersbaugh and Bruce Berman. Mark Mothersbaugh is the founding member and lead singer of the band Devo, as well as a prolific composer of Sounds of Our Childhood. The Rugrats theme, that's Mark Mothersbaugh. He did many other DCOMs he composed for as well, and he also scores all of Wes Anderson's movies, like this one, Ping Island. I love this song. Most of Mothersbaugh's songs are distinctly him, and it's really cool to see him listed on this compilation. Little did I know that the impact of this man when I first heard him in my childhood, but Disney and Nickelodeon really struck gold by employing him on so many of their products sonically. Interestingly, neither Mark Mothersbaugh nor Bruce Berman, who also composed for Disney movies, have Can of Worms listed on their IMDb credits. Final film and song comes in the form of the movie Horse Sense, the Lawrence brothers' vehicle, which sees Michael, a coddled city slicker, sent to his cousin Tommy's ranch to find out the true meaning of hard work and the value of things that matter in life. It was followed by a sequel called Jumping Ship, which includes third Lawrence brother Matt. The other two Lawrence brothers, Joey and Andy, are the only two in Horse Sense. But the song Telephone Number by the band of Rich Creamy Paint is probably my most favorite track on the whole compilation. And that's saying something because I really love Five and Youngstown. But the vibe of Telephone Number is unmatched to all the other tracks on the album. It is early 90s pop punk garage rock at its finest, and it is a song I have loved since the first time I heard it on this CD. It has the most re-listenability of all the tracks for myself personally. The song is used during the scene when Michael picks Tommy up from the airport and drives him to his family's house in Los Angeles. Overall, it's not really the most solid record. There are definitely good songs from some of these movies missing on this soundtrack that it probably could have benefited from, especially Brink and Johnny Tsunami. And the random assortment of pop music and scores and older disco funk is an odd choice. It's definitely clear to me now why they didn't quite make another volume like this one. Obviously marketed to the kids watching the DCOMs, but a lot of the tracks on there aren't. It's just not music kids who are watching these DCOMs want to listen to. There was a similar product called Disney Channel Hits Take Two, which I suppose implies the second volume, but it skips all of the movies released between 2000 and 2003 and reflects the change in Disney's move from using songs just on the record label more towards using Disney Channel stars and singers to create a vacuum chamber of DCOMs and music, using one to the other interchangeably. Take Two includes artists like Jesse McCartney, Haley Duff, Annalise Vanderpool from That's So Raven, The Cheetah Girls, which was a self-insulated movie to soundtrack itself, Christy Romano from the Even Stevens, and fictional band Zeta Bites from Pixel Perfect. which I'm not gonna lie, I definitely love the pop rock song Nothing's Wrong With Me, but that's not even on the Take Two compilation. The channel itself went through an intense change from 1998 to 2005 and went completely stratospheric the following year with the release of the High School Musical movie. Zoog Disney was the channel's main block that aired from 1998 to 2002, when they changed over to just regular Disney Channel, seeing a change in intro from the movies to a jingle. Honestly though, as much as I could criticize choices made with this, it really is a treasure. I think it's a collector's item for people like me who really love this time period, the late 90s, early 2000s, especially for the Disney Channel and for the music that they used in the original movies before they became a cultural juggernaut, things like the Cheetah Girls and High School Musical. To some of us, this represents comfort, a time when life was simpler, the warm memories of staying up all weekend, catching the latest DComs, and rewatching our favorite movies, and being the first generation to get the Disney Channel on regular cable, increasing the accessibility to the content on the station, watching as the channel and its offerings spread to insane heights. A time when the channels were trying to figure out how to bridge the gap between analog and digital. Zoog was that for basic cable Disney Channel generation. Zoog existed in the Zether, the space that existed between the internet and the TV, back in a time when both of those things were destinations, a place to be and places to leave behind to live the rest of your life. It was, in fact, a simpler time. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I did my best with what's available to me for this. I mean, I had to talk about it. Like I said, I can't think of boy bands, girl groups, pop music, the late 90s and the early 2000s without thinking about DComs, without thinking about the Disney Channel, because those things were so synonymous with each other. So many things I heard about just because I was watching the Disney Channel, they all went hand in hand, and I feel like this is like an important marker to discuss. So once again, Vintage Bubblegum Pod is a one-woman show. It's just me. I write, research, edit, record, social media, all of that is just me. So if you would like to support this channel, you can sign up for our Patreon. If you sign up for the one tier that I have, you can put your name in the ring to do a dramatic reading of boy band lyrics. You don't have to do it on video. It can just be audio. It can be completely anonymous if you'd prefer. You can also send in your boy band confessions. I had a comment on one of my YouTube videos where somebody said the YouTube video for I'll Be There For You by Solid Harmony, they mentioned that they stole money out of their parents' purse to buy the Solid Harmony album, which I love that. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Confessions. Send them to me. You can have that opportunity if you sign up for Patreon or if you sign up for Ko-Fi. I really appreciate the support. I also have a Redbubble, so you can buy stickers, buttons, notebooks, whatever. I also have a TikTok. I have a YouTube, I have an Instagram, as well as this on Spotify. You can like, share, follow, all of those things, one of those things, whatever, any support you can give me, I really, really appreciate. So next week, I'd like to talk about the movie Smart House. I just rewatched it last night, and I have a lot to say. So that'll be for next week. And then the week after, we're going to be talking about C'est La Vie by Bewitched. So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.